Hello, hello, Craig at RAM, Real Estate and Mortgage. And we've got a special guest today. But are you an expert in mortgage finance or real estate
No,
transactions? Most people aren't.
I'm not an
Subscribe to learn
expert in
from
mortgage.
experts at RAM. Subscribe to RAM at Real Estate and Mortgage. It's a great place to learn and educate yourself in the complexity of mortgage and real estate. Get real life questions answered or browse many of our videos covering the topics you desire. Better yet, get real life scenarios and answers for your questions without obligation. My goal is to educate, inspire, and motivate you in all things real estate, even if you are not in the market right now. Come learn what you need to do on your first home purchase, the sale of a house, or buying a home of your dreams. Whether today, next month, or next year, RAM is the place for you. So once again, at RAM, Real Estate and Mortgage on YouTube, subscribe. You'll have access to all of the information necessary for this. Today, we have a guest. She's a friend of mine. Phyllis, how long have we known each other?
24 years, I believe.
24 years. You've got it down. I was going to say 25, but I'm going to go with 24 then.
Maybe 25. I don't know. It's been so long, I may have forgotten a year or two.
Well, Phyllis and I have known each other and worked with each other for over 24 years. And during that time frame, Phyllis has worked in Idaho, California, Arizona, Utah, never Nevada, right?
No. Let's see. Idaho, Arizona, Colorado,
Colorado. That's the one I
California.
missed.
Right.
Colorado
And now Utah.
Yeah.
I've been licensed in 5 states. I've been the broker of an office of 15 agents,
Nice.
and
And
I've
we've been
done
friends the entire time, just
we
because
have
you know
we've
what,
stayed
we get
friends.
each other, and it
We
works.
do. We
So
do.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well,
Obviously, you're a real estate agent, but tell us about yourself.
okay. Well, I am a licensed agent. I've been licensed in 5 states, as we said, and it's been almost 3 decades now since I got my license initially, and 20 years since I got my broker's license. In Idaho and in Arizona and Colorado, I also had a broker's license. California makes you start all over, so we, you know, dropped the broker part, but that's okay. Um, Anyway, I am the mom of 3 boys. I've been married, it will be 40 years in a couple of months.
You just had a
I
new
know, I got
grandbaby.
married when I was 12. Anyway,
You also just had a new grandbaby.
and I just had a new grandbaby. He is darling, and we just love him. That makes number 8 for us. And yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting. And
Wow,
so 'I've
8 grandkids.
been juggling kids and grandkids and moving. My husband currently works for aerospace. He was active duty captain in the Air Force during Desert Storm as a FTD commander. Then he got a
And Ron
job.
is a gem of a man. He is awesome.
Well, he
Does that
stayed with
depend on
me
the
for
day?
40 years. Yeah. Yeah, well, he stayed with me for 40 years, so, you know.
Well,
Um,
kudos to him then.
That's right. No complaints here. He's great. Um,
Well, let's
and
jump
let's
in. Let's jump into what
just
what
get
what you
started
do.
on what we're doing.
So, Phyllis, obviously, you've done a lot in real estate. You've done it for how many years did you say?
27.
27 years you've been in real estate. And obviously, 24 of those years, you've actually had a relationship with me on, all things mortgage for sure. Um, so, really, kind of the purpose of my wanting you to come on the podcast today is you do something different than a lot of agents do. And I know it's been a passion of yours for at least the last 10 or 15 years.
Actually, I started in investing in 2004, and it was creative investing as well. I've done a lot of different types of investing.
Okay, so when you say investing, I'm obviously thinking of another thing that I know that you're good at as well. Let's talk about that, investing. What do you mean by that?
So, for example, we bought a piece of property in Boise that was already 4 legal lots. with separate parcel numbers. It had one house on it. There was a lady around the corner whose house was falling apart and could not be rehabbed. So we bought that property, sold her the house. She paid a moving company to drive it down the street. And
The
then we
house?
put signs in the house. And then we cleared the lots and put signs in the yards and just resold the infill. Just
I
turned right
remember
around.
these.
Do you remember
I
them?
remember these. It was
And
close. It was
now
close to
they're,
a military base called Mountain Home.
yeah, that we did that we did in a house in Mountain Home also. These were actually in Boise off of Grover and Lakespaw. And they were infill, and now there's row houses there.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, and then we moved a house all the way to Mountain Home, Idaho from Boise. Another person gave us 5 lots. The house was on 3 of them. So we put this house on the other lot and restored it. It had been built in 1977, and now it has an effective date of 2007.
So you're
And
creative, is what you're telling me. You
I'm
see an
creative.
opportunity,
I'm
and
creative.
you're gonna take the reins and you're gonna run with it.
That is right. And we find solution. My point of telling you this is we find solutions. So that lady needed a house. We wanted the lots. The other folks wanted the lot. We needed the house. So we find ways to make it work. I've done flipping. I've bought multiplexes and rented them and then sold them. I've flipped contracts, which is known as wholesaling. So I have a vast
You do have a vast knowledge of
experience
this.
in
And we
investing.
also, when we first met, you were kind of a buyer's agent, a listing agent, and we just talked about clients and getting them in the house and getting them closed, which we've done, I don't know, we've done 30, 40, 50, 60 houses like that at least.
I think so. I think it's
Yeah,
been that much. We just did one right before Christmas,
we did, which
right
was an
here in
amazing
Utah.
one,
It was.
and we got some solar panels on it to boot.
It was an amazing deal, and they had been told no by so many people, and they were discouraged, and now they own their own home, and they are so happy. And so, like I said, I'm a person who finds solutions. So I'm an agent. I'm a licensed agent here in Utah with Real Broker, and my brand is your empowerment agent because I empower my buyers and sellers and investors with the information they need to make informed decisions, to make sound decisions, and to know exactly what to look for and what not to do.
All right,
And
time
then
out
they
here.
can take that information.
Time out here.
Yes,
Are you reading this?
I'm not.
I mean, you're looking so right at the camera, doing all the right things. I'm like, okay, is she reading this? Because I'm just ad libbing here.
I have nothing in front of me to read. But I'm just, Craig, I'm just that good. You know
Well,
that.
you are awesome, and it's been honestly a pleasure to work with you. This I do know: you care tremendously about your clients, and you make a lot of friends with them. And it's been a lot of fun to see that for sure.
Thanks.
Let's step into one other thing because you mentioned this, and I don't think most agents do this, and I don't think most clients understand this as well. Wholesaling. Give me a
Okay.
411 or a bird's eye view of what do you mean by wholesaling? Because in the mortgage world, wholesaling is I have a file and I go to 175 different lenders and determine where to place that file. Wholesaling on the real estate side is different.
It is. It's completely different. And a lot of agents, as you said, don't do it. And even more, I will say, don't understand it. And it has been looked down on occasionally because if you aren't doing it with care for the person that you are working with, it can come across in a negative light. However, the reason I wholesale properties is to help people. I have helped many people prevent foreclosures and short sales even, and saved their credit by putting a contract on their property. So wholesaling works like this. The wholesaler puts the property under contract. Then, with the permission in writing of the seller, they find an investor or an end buyer that wants to live there. and they sell the contract to that end buyer.
Okay.
That's as straightforward and clear as I can put it. Now, you want to
Instead of
make
the
sure.
standard way, which is I'm an agent, I go list a house, or I'm a buyer's agent and I bring a buyer to a house and we negotiate with the seller and the seller's agent and we put it under contract. It's different because you already went out, you sourced the property, you're not listing the property, you offered to buy the property with a clause in the contract to actually sell it to somebody else.
Yes. So
Or
that is
even keep it
one
yourself
option.
if you want.
Or keep it. So what we do is we explore all of the options. Some of the properties that I picked up, I bought. When I was in California, for example, I had a client, a friend, a neighbor want to sell his entire portfolio there in that town. He had a lot of properties all the way in Huntington Beach, in Ridgecrest, in different places. His wife had passed away 2 months before I met him, and she had managed a lot of the properties, and he just didn't have it in him at that time to continue doing those things.
Right.
So he asked me what I would give him for these properties. So I told him each contract, each property, there were a total of 5 properties. One of them, for example, was a 5-plex. There was a 4-plex and 3 triplexes. So a total of 21 doors.
Pretty good portfolio.
What's that?
It was
Oh
a
yeah,
pretty good
that was
portfolio.
only one. He had a $10 million apartment building down in Huntington Beach, but we won't talk about that one. Anyway, so I bought them and I closed on them with seller financing, and I put 130,000 down. He carried the rest for 60 days. In the meantime, I sold all but one of the buildings. And in the process of doing that, I did some fix ups and repairs. I increased the rents. I made them more valuable. And then I sold them to another person there in town who owned quite a few rentals. I kept the one triplex and fixed it up. And the person who eventually bought it from me, I think about a year later, turned it into an Airbnb.
Interesting.
So yeah, he had the seller originally that sold it to me had several people who weren't paying rent, who had financial issues, lost jobs, different things like that. But then they were back on their feet. So once we transferred ownership, we started them at ground zero. So I serviced and helped the seller on this hand with this hand getting the property sold. I can't see where my hands are. And then on the other hand, I helped the tenants who had come across hard times to have a little bit of break and start over again and reset. Now I did increase their rents,
Yeah.
which, but I mean,
Which
we
happens.
were in California and they were paying $550 a month for some of those units.
Wow.
So
I'd like to see a place in Utah for $550 a month right
yeah,
now.
and the ones that were occupied, I only increased them $100 a month. The one that was vacant, which was also an extra bedroom, a 3-bedroom, I increased that one to $1,100 a month, and I got it rented overnight.
Very
But
cool.
it helps people out on both sides of the line. If
So what
you
you're
do
telling
it
me is wholesaling is kind of a good deal because you can go out and kind of find these situations where someone might feel like it's completely helpless and they're just over there, they're overwhelmed, they don't know what to do. But a professional like you're going to come in, you're going to see the property, you're going to actually find the buyers, you're going to find the tenants, you're going to find everything necessary. And of course, there's a cost for that. That's why you do it. You're making money as well.
Sure. And I put my fee in there, or I buy it and close on it. And then when I sell it, I've improved it and I make a little profit on it.
Gotcha.
And I always make sure that the person I'm working with does not feel taken advantage of. I am always very clear that this is what I do and I make money doing it.
So let me
I
ask you
want
this.
to, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to catch you out, but let me ask you
No,
this.
great, great.
Do
It's your
you
podcast.
have to be a licensed real estate agent to do wholesaling?
It depends. If you live in Utah right now, that answer is no. If you live in Chicago, yes. If there's some states, and it's becoming more prevalent, where yes, you do have to have a license, I happen to have a license because I am a person who likes to comply with rules.
Well,
And
thank you for
I
saying that.
don't, yeah, I don't want to take any chances of doing anything outside of the boundaries of what is legally and rule wise acceptable. I
I
want to
mean,
make
because
sure
acting as
that
an agent in the role of an agent without being licensed as an agent could get you in some serious trouble.
it could, depending on what you disclose and what's legally acceptable in the state you live in. Now, you can wholesale in Utah without a license, but again, I will be very clear. You want to make sure everything is in writing, everyone is notified, and everyone is in agreement. Because the thing that is important to remember is if you don't have a seller and yourself and the contract that is all in agreement with how you are acting, then you are a bad actor. You are not acting within the bounds of the law, and you are being sneaky or conniving. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that are. And I'm sure there are people who believe that wholesalers in general are,
Right.
but not all of them are. I work with
Look, I
some
don't
really
think
good
wholesalers
people.
are shady at all. And matter of fact, I actually have probably two or three different wholesale groups that send properties. I get them on my via text or email, and every time I do, I click on the button, look at the pictures, and say, yeah, is this a property that I'd want to actually renovate? Is this a property I'd like to want to buy?
Sure,
I mean, 99% of the time, I'm going to tell you honestly, no, I don't. I either know the area or I know the work involved with it. And there are many, many other people that want to take that chance or, have the funds to just, maybe hold on to them for a while, renovate them and do some other things. But
sure.
is that what you do? Do you get a bunch of lists and send out to people? I mean, how
I,
do you find your
I,
buyers and the investors?
well, I do have some lists that I call. Mostly, I look around me and I see what's there. And if I drive by a property, for example, that has weeds up to here, and the windows may have boards or may not, um, but it looks in trouble. I will write down the information and I will search for the seller. The other option I have is to go to the county and get records for people who are distressed.
Gotcha.
And
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 when you say
so
distressed, we're talking notice of default, possibly a short
correct,
sale, maybe going into foreclosure.
correct. So they've got some problems. They've got tax liens, HOA liens. Recently I recently saved a house from being foreclosed on by the tax commission. And yeah, in fact, they didn't even know that they were 1 month away from not being able to
Wow.
live in their home. And see, they
I have
owned
a
it
dear
outright.
friend who had his home foreclosed on from HOA for a failure to pay his HOA fees.
Correct. That
And it
happens.
and it was pretty
And
sad because he had
and
a
these guys
chunk
own
of
the
equity.
house outright. They
Yeah.
own it outright and didn't know that their taxes weren't they knew they weren't paid. They didn't know they were going to get them lose their home.
Well, I think it's
And
7
so,
years in Utah before you can sell a house on delinquent taxes.
uh-huh. This was this was in Idaho and it was like 3 years. That's
Oh,
all.
wow.
Um but, and there's different scenarios. There's different people who have different needs. Some people, the house is fine. Some people, they've lost their job and they find a new one. It's in another state. They know that they're not going to be able to stay. They're not going to be able to maintain the situation. They do not want to lose their credit rating so that they can buy a house at the other end.
Right.
So we come in and we help them. They don't necessarily have to be ceilings falling in,
Right.
mold growing on the
Right.
walls
Right.
to be
Right.
distressed.
It
Right.
could be just, the downward turn of life. So let me ask you this, though, Phyllis. With that, why would somebody actually have you wholesale it and not just list it and try to get buyers to buy it?
Is that they do not want people walking through their house. They don't want to wait for an appraisal and they don't want to have to make repairs for someone who comes in and sees the house. Because when somebody gets a loan on a property, if there's something wrong that is prevent the loan from going, then they will have to repair it in order for the loan to close. And there are
What do you
people out
mean?
there.
No homes have toilets. What are you talking about?
You're funny. Um, yeah,
I've seen
I
that, by
had
the
a
way.
lady. What's that?
I've seen that, by the way. I was a foreclosed home, and I went to an open house with an agent, and there were no toilets. They took them they took them with them
Yeah,
when they left.
I've seen houses that were absolutely stellar, perfect, no holes in the walls, no nothing. But they just took the dishwasher, the toilets, the light fixtures with them when they left. Um, I had a lady, for example, in Colorado. I was living in California at the time, and I met her. She lived in Colorado. She had a townhouse. It needed a roof. It needed some other things. And she owed a little bit of money on it and wanted to move to California and buy something outright. So I contacted my friend who also buys distressed properties. And I said, hey, take a look at this property and see what you think. And this lady doesn't want to list it. She doesn't want people walking through her house. She just wants cash and she's out of there. And she wants to come to California and pay cash for her house and be done. She doesn't want to get a loan, none of that. And so we got her house sold. She moved to California. I sold her a property there in Ridgecrest, and she lived happily ever after, as far as I know. I
That's
mean,
awesome. And see,
haven't talked.
those are the type of stories I love to hear because I mean, and let's just be honest, sometimes it is an intrusion in people's lives. You know, when can I see the house? Well, you can see it the second Thursday of next week, which, then nobody's ever going to buy the house because nobody ever goes and looks at it and they can't see it if that restriction is so tight. And there are some people, honestly, that just don't want people messing with their lives. They don't want to, they don't
Right,
want to do that.
right. And there are some other people, and this is not a business restricted to distressed people or
For sure.
distressed properties. I the first property I did here in Utah, for example, we did wholesale it and we put it under contract. It was 3 properties. The owner was an attorney, and it had originally been twin homes, and they divided it into townhouses. And he had spent 2 years remodeling one of the units, and he'd had them rented forever. One of them still had the same tenant in it for 18 years, who
Wow.
happened to have quite a few dogs. Um, the rest of it was college students and such. Anyway, he spent 2 years renovating one of the units and said, "Never again.
I'm done
I
with that.
will.
Don't want to do it.
I will. I'll
I
sell it
like
for what I
practicing the
can."
law, not swinging a hammer.
That's right. That's right. And so these are not uneducated people that are being taken advantage of. These are people who know what they're doing. You disclose everything to them. You make sure they understand exactly what the outcome is going to be. And then you get the documents signed. And that's something that I want to talk about. I have purchased homes that were on the MLS that were distressed, and then I've assigned them to a different end buyer. But if you do that, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need to make sure that you're clear. If you're not the listing agent, if you're wholesaling, you damn well better not be the listing
Right.
agent. I'll just
Right. For sure.
say that right now. If you're buying that property to wholesale it, okay, and it's on the MLS and has a listing agent, you need to be clear with that agent and with that seller that your intent is to explore all of your options, whether you close on it and renovate it and rent it out, whether you just throw some lipstick on that pig and rent it out,
Right.
or if you want to find a different end buyer. But in order to do any of those things, you need to make sure that it's all understood what's going on. And you need to have a signed document in your possession that has stated that you intend to explore these options. And one of them might be to find a different end buyer and wholesale the property.
Interesting.
If you don't do that, you can find yourself in some really deep doo-doo. The
Right.
other thing with the real estate commission and the ethics board,
Right.
and trust me,
You
Big
don't want to
Brother is
go there.
watching. Big Brother is watching. Um,
You don't want to go there.
and in California, for example, I bought a triplex. I put it under contract anyway. I was going to close on it. I bought several there, but this particular one, I decided to assign. And in California, you not only have to disclose that you're going to assign it to a different buyer, but you have to tell them if there is a fee involved and how much that fee is. So you have to disclose, I am making X dollars by doing this.
Gotcha.
And I did that a couple of times there, 3 or 4 times actually. And as long as you disclose it in writing to the seller, that's all that's really required. And this particular person, had been working with the local property managers and so forth, and he was just done. He was just done. He didn't live locally. He had not, in his mind, been treated fairly. It was a pain in his neck, and he just wanted to be done with it. So I put it under contract, found a different end buyer, assigned the contract to them, and we closed, and he got his money. And on the addendum, it said, this property is going to be assigned as a wholesale contract and will be charged a fee of X dollars. That particular person told me he had never been treated so honestly in California in his real estate dealings. So I know a lot of wholesalers, a lot of people are concerned about disclosing that they're making money.
Right.
And
I mean,
I
why
want
would
to
you be
tell
doing it if you weren't making money?
Exactly. I want to say a couple of things about that. Nobody works for free.
No,
Nobody.
they don't.
I don't care. You're not going to go into your office tomorrow and tell your boss, hey, tomorrow, don't pay me.
Yeah.
I'll show up anyway.
Not going to happen.
You're just not going to do it. So the fact that you're making money at what you're doing is not a surprise to them. They know that you're not doing it for free.
He just liked the transparency and the disclosure that you were doing that. So on that same note, so does Utah not require you to disclose?
No, it does not require you to disclose if you are making. It doesn't require you to disclose if you're making a fee and how much it is.
Interesting.
It does require. If it's on the MLS, you have to have the seller sign off on an addendum that says you can assign the contract. If you don't have that piece of paper in your hand, signed by
It's
all
a private
parties,
note where you found it. It's not on the MLS. You've got your own documents that I'm sure you have a whole library of that you work with.
yes. You still want to make sure they've disclosed, that they've signed off, that it says right there in the contract, these are the possibilities. My contracts all say, we are putting this property under contract. We are giving you X dollars of earnest money. And then there's an addendum that I attach that says, my company is going to exercise all of its options. We may keep the property as a rental. We may renovate the property and resell it. We may assign it to a new end. And it lists all the different options. And it says we will do for a profit. Now, it doesn't disclose how much that's going to be because it depends on, if we flip it, we could make, $50,000
right,
or
right.
more, if we or less.
More or less.
We've had flips.
Depends on the market.
Did not go that way. But the other thing is we still need to disclose to the seller. And even if it's not a law, even if it's not a requirement, anybody in this industry that's working with people who are already feeling distressed or in a situation where they are just feeling like they want to get rid of it and move on, you want to make sure they understand and do not feel taken advantage of, because if you don't, it still could come back to bite you later.
So why don't you give me kind of a range here? And obviously I'm not looking for any trade secrets or anything like that, but I mean, you're driving around, you're seeing these properties, you might even have lists, you're calling the recorder's office. I mean, on average, maybe that's a bad question. So let's say you're locating a house and you're telling the client, I'm going to give you X, but then you turn around and you sell it for Y. Is there a specific formula? Is there a specific percentage that you want to do, or it doesn't make sense? Or is it just kind of a gut feel?
No, never buy real estate with your gut. I'll just say that right now. No, it has to be about the numbers. It has to be logical. It has to make sense. And you will find different properties in different conditions. Like I said, you might find one that's just great and move in ready, and they just need out. And those are properties offer in a couple of ways. Offer to buy it and then assign the contract, under contract and assign the contract. And there's no repairs required. You can offer them a little bit more. You could if it needs $1,000 worth of work. But you still want to make sure you're making income, and also that you're making sure the person who buys it, the investor, is making, because they're not going to buy it if there's no money in it for them either, and then it's just going to sit there. The thing that I hear a lot is that wholesalers suck all the money out of the deal, and maybe they do. I don't.
Maybe they do.
I don't. I usually charge a small fee. I usually price the property. For example, the Cottonwood Heights townhouse I was telling you about. I priced it at 68% of retail at that time. I offered him 68%. It needed, I would say, easily $100,000 worth of work because it had
Wow.
dogs in it.
Wow.
He had two others that were exactly the same in the same location, right at the mouth of Cottonwood Canyon up to the ski resort, where they don't allow Airbnbs. and those better, they still needed some work, but I was able to get all of them at the one at 65% of retail and the other two at 68%. And then the end buyer, I believe, got them for 70. I took a very small fee and they got them for 70% of the actual.
So there's still room for the investor to actually do the improvements, and if they decide to fix or flip or hold on to, they were in a good position.
Exactly. And they did flip them. And they're beautiful and they're amazing. And I just saw one of them back on the market. But,
so if we have anybody watching this or want to know about wholesaling or education of this, how does someone reach out to you and say, hey, I don't want to list my house, but I want to get rid of it. How do I contact you?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, I am with Real Broker, but if you don't want real estate listings involved and real estate commissions on both sides involved, you can call me. My number is 719-459-7898. I am your empowerment agent with Real Broker here in Utah. I am licensed. And if you don't want to list it and you want to wholesale it, or you want to have someone flip it or buy it and rent it and it's in good shape, whatever it is that you need to do. We've also done some seller financing. I'm very creative. And we always follow the law. And I know that with seller financing, there's some things taking place right now because apparently it's been used in the past as other things to be dishonest with the tax commission, apparently, and with other places. And they're trying to stop laundering money through seller financing, which I'm really smart about real estate. I know how to do real estate. I do not know how to launder money. So do not ask me to do that with your property.
Well, I'm not even sure how you do. I know how you always see these straw buyers and Ponzi type scheme things, but with your seller finance laundering money, seller finance is always a thing that comes up or pops up when rates are higher, for sure, always. Sure. And I think you personally have done a seller finance. I personally have done a seller finance.
I've done a couple of them actually.
So, but those deals only come about when interest rates are kind of outlandish and inventory is not moving. I think as interest rates continue to drop, there's still a need for it. There always will be, but it's less and less.
True. And right now, when I sold my property, I had bought it in 2020. So my rate was extremely reasonable and we were
Must
able
have
to
had a good
sell it.
lender.
That's because I had a good lender. That's right. His name was Craig. Um, and we had a great interest rate. So we were able to sell it and get a great interest rate for that person and save them. They were approved at a 7% rate at their mortgage company. And they didn't go through, Craig.
Yeah. And they went
That
through
was
with
the
your
truth.
interest rate, which was a heck of a lot better.
Right. So they went through us and bought it for seller financing and saved $1,000 a month on their
Wow.
payment. And we, had we rented the house, for example, would have gotten maybe $200 a month. And that didn't count the HOA fees and the taxes and so forth. So
Right.
we would have made almost nothing.
So in this
Now
situation where it was a rate rising environment, it made sense to do it this way.
it did. And we get almost $800 a month instead of nothing.
Yeah.
So and so it's always dependent on the seller, the need, the environment, the current market conditions. And that's one of the things I have been priding myself on for several decades, and that is learning about what's happening. For example, in 2006, I was watching people get into real estate right and left. They could just, all you had to do was fog a mirror and you could get a license. And
That's true.
they were like, things are happening right now. People are selling houses like crazy. And it was the beginning of, it was the front end of that bubble. And what was happening in Idaho at that time was outrageous. People were building houses and buying land. And then before they even got the framework up, the price of the house had gone up
Yeah. I remember those
exponentially.
days, which caused that
And
huge bubble, the Great Recession.
yeah, contractors would go onto sites and get subcontractors to say, I'll double whatever you're getting if you just walk away right now with me. And so then, of course, they had to increase the price of the house. And that went on for probably 6 or 8 months. Well, the end result of that was there were several developed subdivisions sitting barren throughout Boise for many years. There were money lenders, hard money lenders who went out of business. I particularly knew one that lost $69 million.
Wow.
Um, yeah, he had been my hard money lender, but see, I
Yeah.
paid him back after that
Not
happened.
anymore.
No. And so a lot of that stuff went on, and Idaho was not one of the top listed states. I believe it was Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, and California. Idaho went back and forth between fourth position and eighth position for 6 months in notices of default and foreclosures. And as I saw that coming, I started doing BPOs, which
I
gave
was going
me
to
an
ask you that. I
yeah,
was going to
yeah.
ask you what a BPO is because I know you do those.
I have done over 2,500 BPOs.
Okay, tell us
That
what a BPO is.
So a BPO is a broker price opinion.
See,
What
don't
that
you like
means,
that nomenclature? Broker price opinion.
yeah, and keep in mind the final word in that description, opinion. So it's not an appraisal, but it's not a CMA. You have to do almost the same amount of work as an appraisal. In some cases, it's pretty tedious. But as houses began doing short sales, I did my first short sale in 2004. And that was back in the day when you could call the asset manager on the phone and he would answer and you could talk to him and he would open up his spreadsheet with his algorithms on it. And you say, okay, I got this done and this done. And I got an IRS tax lien released. I got these things done. I have a buyer at this price. What can we do? And we managed to get it sold. But, that took a lot of work and a lot of talking with this guy directly. Once it got so severe that they had to do it by fax, Bank of America was spending $5,000 a month on toner. I kid
Wow.
you not. And from
So
faxes.
broker price opinion is what the banks want you to do on distressed properties. I mean,
to express the value in the current market.
Gotcha.
So you have to give them the condition of the property, what it would sell for if it was not in that condition, or if it's in good condition, the price that it is. You have to give them a 90-day price. So if they put it on the market, how much would it sell for in 90 days? How much could they list it for and still take 90 days to sell it? And then you have to give them the quick sale price for 30 days. So if we wanted to turn this around tomorrow, what would we have to list it for? And you include photos, interior and exterior, sometimes only exterior. You have to show pictures of the address and the street so they know it's the right location. You have to give all the details that they want so that they know they're not losing any more money than they absolutely have to lose.
Right.
And then they either commit to the short sale or they commit to the foreclosure. I've dealt with the other reason that you do a BPO is loan modifications. I don't know if they still do those at the same rate they used to,
No.
but I probably did 150 loan modifications just in like around 6 months. They stopped doing those at that high rate because 65% of the time they went back into default.
Right.
They want to know if they do refinance the property, are they still going to get their money out of it? Because I loaned you $200,000 and now you're telling me the house is only going to sell in this market for 120. Do I want to do a loan modification or not?
Probably not.
And so there's a lot
and
of
on foreclosure,
information.
they're just writing off the balance anyway, and probably using the mortgage insurance that was listed on it to actually make the bank whole. Phyllis, those things are interesting. I mean, that's incredible. All the insight and ability that you've had over the last 27 years doing real estate, whether it's BPO, whether it's wholesaling, whether it's just working with a regular buyer or seller, whether it's listing a house. I mean, you've done some incredible things, and frankly, I feel fortunate to be your friend. Not only your friend, I work with you, but more than anything, I just feel fortunate to be your friend. And I know you have a wealth of knowledge and ability. And look, we could probably talk on this podcast for several different hours.
I know we don't have the REO listings I done.
I know we don't have enough time for that, and we're gonna actually bring you back on to do that. But in this market right now today, what is one thing you would tell? I mean, because this channel is for real estate agents, it's for lenders, it's for borrowers, it's for anybody that wants to come educate themselves on anything real estate. I've had title people, I've had appraisers on here. I mean, this is really an education, and sometimes they're long videos, sometimes they're short videos, and of course there'll be a lot of different ones. But what is one thing you would tell just the general population about real estate and mortgage that you think they should listen to?
I would say if you're unsure of what's happening, if you don't know exactly how to handle a transaction, find out before you do anything legal. If a seller calls you and says, hey, this is the situation I'm in, and I need to know what to do, find out what it is what their need is. And if you don't know how to handle it, either research it or find somebody who can help you handle it. If you've never done a short sale and somebody needs to do a short sale, I know there are people out there who you take the listing and they handle the paperwork with the bank for you so that everything is done correctly. I know that if you are handling a distressed property and you just want to write a contract and wholesale it and flip it, make sure you have all the correct paperwork. Cover your,
do your due diligence, make sure you're within the law, do it the right way, don't cut corners.
Exactly. Make sure you're doing the due diligence, tell the seller, tell the buyer, make sure you disclose, do all of the due diligence, know what you're doing. I don't know if I can say don't half-ass it, but I just did.
You just did. And I don't think there's a G rating on this. So,
okay.
Well, Phyllis, I appreciate that. I mean, this is a wealth of knowledge. I love the angle that you've talked about with the wholesaling and everything like that, and making sure that you're very compliant, make sure that you're doing it the right way. And if you don't know, can people reach out to you and ask?
Find out.
Are you okay if they call you and ask and talk?
Yeah, they can talk to me. They can give me a call. As I said, my number is 719-459-7898. And they're more than welcome to give me a call, and I will talk to them about whatever their situation is. And if it's not something I can help them handle, I know a lot of people, and I know people that can help them handle it.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm very, I, I'm very connected in this market and in other states as well. So if you need something, if you have a question, if you want to know exactly how compliant you need to be, what steps you need to take before you do something, what steps your seller needs to take, make sure you are compliant, make sure you disclose, make sure you have everything in writing.
Got it. Well, Phyllis, that is amazing. And I do appreciate you jumping on here and doing this. Remember, this channel is to inspire, it's to educate, it's to motivate, it's to talk about all things real estate in Utah. This is for people as a spot to come, get your education, get the connections, get the subject matter experts that are actually talking about this that can help you with what you're trying to do with anything in real estate in Utah. I am Craig with Ram Real Estate and Mortgage. This is Phyllis Rodriguez with Real Broker of Utah, right?
Yes, real broker
Real
and
Broker
your empowerment agent.
and your empowerment agent. So, with that, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you get a couple of nuggets of good information out of this that you can use in your real estate endeavors. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you, Craig.